It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends yes! Caught! Touchdown! Did he get it?
Welcome back, Full Court Press, second hour, getting into some Utah State talk. Spent a lot of time, we went over our, kind of gave our reactions to the Diana Sabo interview that we were able to do here on the Full Court Press yesterday. If you want to go listen to that, it's on the Full Court Press podcast feed. You can go, it's about 18 minutes, I think, is about the total time that I was able to have a conversation with the athletic director, Diana Sabo. So,
there we go. I thought it was a really interesting interview. If you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to it, engaging. Certainly, she's very interested in learning about Utah State and visiting with people about USU's history and trying to develop a plan for Utah State moving forward. But she didn't want to reveal what that plan is just yet because she still wants a chance to gather as much information as possible with donors, student athletes, coaches, the community. So she's trying to do her due diligence. That's really all that we could ask right at this point.
Yeah, especially it being so early on in her tenure, needs to be doing that. Listening to everybody, because if she's tries to do stuff without paying attention to the community, then you end up upsetting people and setting yourself back. So that's certainly key for her. So let's go into more preview of Utah State, their season opener at Iowa this Saturday. Obviously, big opponent, tough opponent. We had a chance to talk a little bit about, some of the initial, Iowa talk that Blake Anderson, a little bit of Cooper Legault, their comments on Iowa. We still have some of those clips we can play, but we also have clips from Iowa themselves. They did their press conference either yesterday or Monday as well. I think it was yesterday, where their head coach, Kirk Ferentz, got up in front of the media, did the same thing Blake Anderson did on Monday. So had a few thoughts about Utah State.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was him being asked about Cade McNamara, their projected starting quarterback, if he's healthy. But wanted to kind of start off with Kirk Ferentz's thoughts on Utah State. He didn't spend a ton of time, but was just kind of initially what he said, kind of about Utah State and their situation. He praised Blake Anderson for their 2021, but acknowledged in last year things were kind of interesting, and also how with this offseason, it's hard to know exactly who Utah State is because of, turnover, coaches, players. But his overall feel seems to be that he thinks he has an idea of, who Utah State is. Here's Iowa head coach Kirk Ferentz.
It's a unique situation. It's always unique in first games because of the new players. I'm not quite sure about the roster and all that type of thing, but especially at the portal and, this new era. I think those numbers are probably higher than ever. So, that part's a little bit of a wild card. But the bottom line is if you look at their staff, there's a lot of DNA there that's pretty consistent, whether I know they lost their offensive coordinator, but that is what Coach Anderson specializes in. He's going to take that over. So I think we have a decent feel at least of what that looks like. Same thing with the defensive coordinator. You go back through his career, a lot of consistency there, and same thing with the special teams coordinator. So, I feel like we have an idea of what to expect schematically, but you just never know, and that's true in any first game, no matter if the whole staff had returned. You never know who people get within the out of season. So
that did not cut off. I purposefully cut it there. he started right into another talk. I think it'd be hard to cut out the end of these, but basically his thoughts were, we talk about how Utah State feels like they're an unknown and they almost don't know who they are themselves. That does go for Iowa too. They have to scout this team from the outside and try and figure out who on earth are the Aggies. Although Ferentz does seem fairly confident that he knows mostly who the Aggies are because he knows, what Blake Anderson does. He knows what, Joe Cawthon's done throughout his tenure. The Aggies return a few players, so generally Iowa does seem confident they know who the Aggies are mostly, although he does then acknowledge that, hey, there's going to be some stuff we have to, learn, middle of the game, we're going to start figuring out who the Aggies are, and they'll have to make those adjustments.
Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of uncertainty. Utah State has a lot of new players, and the scheme's not going to be that much different, but just who the players are and how they impact the game could be for Utah State. So understandably, there's some question, but Kirk Ferentz, he is aware of some of the players that Utah State has, some of the dudes that they'll be watching, because they do have tape on some guys who are impact players for USU.
Yeah, he gave some rundown. He didn't give any names, but I imagine you could figure out exactly who he's talking about with most of these when he talks about Utah State's key players.
A couple words about their team. Their quarterback is a veteran player, did a nice job last year. They're an up-tempo team. They are balanced run and pass, but they're an up-tempo team and spread. They've got a good returning receiver, so he's back. Heart and soul of their defense appear to be up the middle. They've got a defensive tackle, linebacker returning. And then kicking game, their punter's a good punter, and they've got one guy on their team that blocked 3 punts last year, which is, you don't hear of that too often. So I think obviously we're going to, give him a lot of attention and be mindful of where he is.
So yeah, I think you mentioned all of, 4 or 5 players, not by name, but you can kind of figure out, talking about Cooper Legas, Terrell Vaughn, Halimoto Apuaka, MJ Tafisi, and Ike Larson. I think those were the guys he basically went
he pretty much named certain Aggies, and you know who he's talking about.
Yeah, for those of us obviously in Aggie Nation, we all know who they're talking about. So there's guys they're obviously keying in on. Obviously Ike Larson is going to be a guy they're afraid of because he's a playmaker, causing turnovers. So you got to, obviously key in on that guy. Be aware of, where that player is, especially on those, punt formations. Like, all right, where is he? Where's he coming from? Got to figure out where he is, because otherwise that ball might be going the other way fast. So, but one thing that's, particularly interesting when looking at Iowa specifically, their storylines, what they're looking at, is their quarterback, Cade McNamara. His health. What's going on with him? Because he's supposed to be, a guy who elevates this team offensively. They were not very well. They were not very good, and they were mocked for how bad they were on offense. For a team that went 8-5, they were horrible on offense. So McNamara, he's supposed to represent at least part of that potential offensive turnaround. And Kirk Ferentz was asked several times, at the very beginning of the questions period, he gets asked about McNamara, and so I started clipping it there. But then, the next 2-3 questions are still about his health and his potential status. So I just clipped the whole thing. It's I forget how long it was, but it was just, it's obviously a very, very big, storyline for them. So yeah, nearly 2 minutes at the beginning there. And they asked him about it again throughout the whole press conference. But here's just kind of the initial summary of Ferentz talking about McNamara's status, a little bit what's going on with the quarterback position there.
Yeah, I got hurt obviously a couple weeks ago. Everybody got to witness that, and it's a strained muscle issue, soft tissue issue, and certainly started working at the end of last week. He's been practicing. I can't put a percentage on where he's at right now. He's been cleared medically. That's the good news. Then the thing we have to judge as we go along is how effective can he be, and can he go out and perform in a way that's representative of the kind of player he is. So look good in practice today. Well, it's kind of day by day. We'll see how sore he is tomorrow and see how he's feeling. And obviously we'd love to have him out there, but we also want to make sure he can perform at a high level.
So would you say questionable is sort of the right way to describe his status?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think right now he is certainly. And I know what he wants to do. I know how he's wired, and that's part of our job, just to be smart about it. And it's tricky. It's always tricky. So we'll just kind of take it day by day, see what it looks like. And again, the number one, I think, first and foremost, is what the medical people say. If you can't play, you can't play. But that hasn't been the case. So we just want to make sure he can play effectively and make sure he can play in a way that's representative of the kind of player he is.
Is it the type of injury which, if you play him, it could get worse, or do you need a little more time to heal it?
Yeah, not do damage. Otherwise, they wouldn't clear medically. Significant damage, but soreness and things like that. That's probably going to be part of the equation. And there's really no right answers on these. And then in all due respect, I mean, just about every guy on the team that's been practicing is a little bit sore and has issues. Nobody's at full strength, but really what it boils down to, in my opinion, is can he play effectively? And then second thing is, to your point, like, is that going to knock him out for 3 weeks if he does play? So, we just have to be smart about that.
So, a lot of concern over his health. And, of course, Cade McNamara spoke to the media after practice yesterday. And, what do you know? They asked him about it. So, here's...
before you play that, so he spoke with the media for about 7.5-8 minutes after practice yesterday. Just like Kirk Ferentz, Coach Ferentz, he was asked multiple times in various different ways about his health. Now, I didn't throw them all together in a mix, but I picked
we didn't want to,
one of those.
We didn't want to play a 7-minute clip.
Yes. But certainly, as Coach kind of ended his comments there about, does he, if we play him now, but he's not, I mean, he's still hurting, and then that means we miss 3 weeks without him. That's something we have to kind of judge. It's kind of similar. You read that kind of mentality into how Cade McNamara answers the questions himself about his own health.
All right, so here's what McNamara said after practice yesterday when asked repeatedly about his health.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm just progressing every single day. I'm feeling a lot better. And really, I'm just really excited to get out there with my teammates. And, we've prepared really well this week so far.
You expect to play on Saturday?
I mean, I'm honestly just really getting better every single day. That decision is just really going to come down to the coaches and the medical staff.
Have you been cleared to practice?
Yeah, I've been practicing. I haven't participated in 100% of practice, but I've been practicing.
Is the goal to be full go by Friday?
I mean, my intention and my goal is to play as many games as I possibly can. And, I mean, of course I want to be out there with my teammates. And like I said, it's just kind of down to what the coaches feel and how the medical staff feels.
Yeah, they're throwing at him point blank a couple of times.
Yeah, and he's non-committal. Now, that was yesterday. Reports today are indicating that he will be a go. He seemed to, reports are, no one officially record is saying
that's not coming out of Iowa. They are very much in the non-committal. We are not going to tell anybody. We're not going to be official about a dang thing. As far as who's a starting quarterback. But yeah, it was ESPN, Pete Thamel reporting that, from his sources or ESPN sources, that the expectations are that Cade McNamara will play on Saturday. I may not have quoted them exactly perfectly, but that's kind of the language, is that they weren't even saying he is going to start. They're saying expectations are.
Right. And so who is he? And how does he impact the game? And what if he only plays for a little bit and then they pull him just to load manage him? As he said, I want to play as most games possible for my team. So it may mean I don't play much against Utah State. I want to play healthier for more games later in the season. So this is a guy who had moments at Michigan, but kind of fell out of favor.
Yeah, because that's where he comes from. Is he was playing at Michigan 2021. That was his superstar year, threw for like 2,500 yards, and it wasn't a statistically dominant quarterback, but there was a lot of team success at Michigan.
Right.
But then fell out of favor in 2022, and now he's at Iowa.
And look, this is a Reno, Nevada native, so he would be somewhat familiar with Utah State as a team who's made the trip to Reno before. But if he doesn't play, the backup going into this one is now I forgot his name, Deacon Hill, And everybody's talking about how this guy loves to showcase his big arm.
He's a big kid. He's just like 6'3", and I think he was like 250-something pounds.
Yes.
He's a big dude. He was at Wisconsin, or I think he played he was 2 years at Wisconsin, red shirt, and then, basically, I think he maybe appeared in one game in those 2 years. But yeah, now he's at Iowa. And of course, he came into the team as the third stringer. Like in spring, he was the third stringer. But Iowa's kind of normal backup, Joe Labas, I think was his name, he's also injured.
Right.
So he's coming in as the backup, but that's because the two guys in front of him are injured, although Hill may have kind of earned the backup job because of some of those injuries. Because now he's played so much, in spring and in fall because of these injuries.
Right. So there's obviously questions about what's going to happen at the quarterback position, how Cade McNamara might be a little bit different from Deacon Hill. McNamara is kind of a solid game manager. He'll have moments where, based on previous film, where he can make some good throws. But Deacon Hill might be somebody who wants to come in and show off a little bit and chuck the ball down the field further. Because all the stuff that I've been reading about and some of the videos I've been watching, everybody wants to talk about him loving to throw it deep. But there's also the other aspect to this is, their offense was much maligned last year. Their offensive line was also under a lot of scrutiny. And there's been a lot of talk about how is the offensive line this year? Are they going to be any better? Are they going to be able to protect the quarterback and keep him healthy?
Yeah, one thing that Ferentz talked about was experience. And he talked about that with the offensive line and with the wide receivers. It's kind of funny, whereas there's two different places where he said experience or lack thereof hurt them last year. Mm-hmm. They just didn't have the experience to play effectively, which maybe that worries you about Utah State this year. But he put quite a bit of last year's struggles on offense because I think the one thing you mentioned is they had one scholarship wide receiver going into the season because of injuries. On the offensive line. Bunch of guys lacking experience. So they seem to have more. That he said he was indicating he was more confident about the experience. That was one thing. See if I can get the clip here, where he's more confident about the experience of the team. Here it is. Here's the clip. We'll play that real quick.
The problem last year is just our lack of experience up front and maturity, physical maturity, and you can't microwave that. I've said that many times. And then the receiver position is, we were out of guys, for injuries and transfer and all that. And there's not much you can do. You play the guys, you play with what you got, and that's how it goes. And sometimes the cards you get dealt are a little bit challenging. But, the guys worked hard. I'm not knocking anybody's effort last year. But that was the reality of it all. And I think we're in a little better situation right now. You got a healthy Nico Rogano. You got a healthy Deontay Vines. Start with those two guys. Two pleasant surprises from the month of August are Seth Anderson, who we thought we liked and when he got here. And we've liked him as a person. No knock, but we couldn't evaluate him as a player because he wasn't out there in the spring. So now, he's had a really good August. And, he's a very impressive young guy.
Now, you heard Ferentz reference Deontay Vines. He was somebody who was made available to the media after practice yesterday. And so there's been a couple of big questions around the Iowa team this year. Is Cade McNamara going to be healthy for game one? Is the offensive line going to be better? And is the offense going to score more points? And those have been big clouds over this team for, since the end of last year. Yeah. And really going back further than that with the offense. But there's definitely been a mandate to score more points. In fact, if they don't reach a certain offensive output by the end of the year, the offensive coordinator will be fired. It's clear. You don't reach this benchmark, you're done. So there's been questions about, what does that mean? Is it going to look different? Or is the offense changed? And Deontay Vines says, really, there's not much different. We're just going to be better at what we do.
How much different will the offense look to the people outside on Saturday?
I think we're still going to play Iowa football. So we're still going to be gritty, hard-nosed guys out there. running the ball, blocking good. I think just with the passing game, we just advanced a little more, and it's gonna be a good seat to just do everything we missed last year and just get it done this year, just on certain routes, certain depths of routes, and just being in the right spot. So I think it's still gonna be Iowa football, how we want it to look, but it's definitely in the right direction.
So there's not going to be a situation or a play where people are like, "Wow, where'd that come from?" That's?
I think we wanted that last year too, but we're definitely going to get that this year. I would say more with the more playmakers we have, and being able to have, Caleb, Seth, Nico, Eric, Luke, those guys, those are big weapons that we have. So being able to get the ball to those guys, I think every time they get the ball, you might be able to go ooh to that, just because those guys are able to get the ball and make plays with the ball every single time they get the ball.
Yeah, so some confidence just in a lot of internal improvement, and I guess just addition by, not having injuries. There were some transfers they brought in. They brought in a tight end actually from Michigan.
Yeah.
Who kind of almost had a similar but slightly different story with Cade McNamara, except so it was Eric All as the tight end. He was like honorable mention All Big Ten as a tight end in 2021. He was injured for most of 2022, so that's why he didn't. McNamara didn't play most of 2022 just because he got benched. All got injured, so that's why he sat on the bench. But he follows his quarterback he's had the most success with. So Iowa, who's done all right putting out tight ends. You may have heard of some of the former Iowa tight ends like George Kittle and others. But so they'll have good tight ends. And there's confidence that the wide receivers they have, guys that are healthier, more experienced, and just guys they've added, they do seem to be confident in their playmakers, and so they're just expecting to be better even if they're still playing good old Iowa, smash mouth football.
Right, and he mentioned, you heard Deontay Vines mention Nico Reganey. In fact, I think Coach Ferentz did a little bit as well, but here's a guy, experienced player in their system. But he's coming back from a foot injury, and they've tried to manage his time in practices in the offseason, so good wide receiver, 6 feet, 190 pounds, and he's a senior. But how full is he going to be able to go on Saturday when they face Utah State?
Yeah, and this is the thing that's really key. Is obviously we talked about the match between Utah State's, offense versus Iowa's defense. We're all focusing on that. Utah State really needs to slow down Iowa or hope that Iowa isn't significantly improved. Because if Iowa's getting into the high teens and in the 20s in terms of points, the game is pretty much over. Because the only teams that were scoring 20-plus points on Iowa last year, well, one, they were usually getting defensive touchdowns, or they were Michigan and Ohio State. So Aggie's got to be able to play some great defense, keep this offense down. Hope that it isn't, completely rejuvenated. Hope that McNamara isn't quite 100% his, 2021 self. Or that Deacon Hill doesn't come in here and just start throwing bombs everywhere.
Right. Yeah, you got some big tight ends. Luke Lachey, 6'6", 253 pounds. Eric All, the transfer from Michigan, 6'5", 250 pounds. They have a fullback, a lead back. He was basically a tight end who they use as a lead back, as fullback. Yeah. That's Hayden Large. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. They just got big bodies all over the place.
Yeah, that's one thing you worry about is how many big bodies they have and the fact they play with the tight ends. Like, Utah State runs that 4-2-5. I don't know if it wouldn't be a bad idea for them to play like a 4-3, or kind of what you saw a little bit against Air Force, where they're playing with like a 5-man front against Air Force at times. Sometimes you got to adjust your formations to adjust to the teams you're playing.
Yeah, yes, very true.
So we need to take a break. On the other side, we're going to be playing an interview that Craig Hislop, I believe, did with Iowa's play-by-play guy, Gary Dolphin. Just talking with him about matchup, a little bit about Iowa, just getting an idea for a little bit more who the Hawkeyes are. That'll be coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Summer may be coming to an end, but we still have some hot deals for you. This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. Our farmer-tested and approved Speed Queen washer is built tough and has a 5-year warranty. It's only $13.99. Snag a matching electric dryer to complete the set. Come see why everyone is trading in their front-load washers for these best sellers. Backed by Daryl's service and warranty team. Daryl's West on Airport Road. Open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
Don't miss Al Sporting Goods Labor Day sale. Over $2 million of Vortex scopes and binos, lower than any retailer in America. Black Diamond headlamps, $29.99. Lifetime 55-quart coolers, $99. Quick Shade canopies, $59.99. Solstice paddle boards, over 50% off at $279. Summer clothing blowout. Names like Cool, Billabong, Prana, Nike, and North Face up to 70% off. Don't forget the early bird special for season ski and snowboard rentals, starting at just $79.99. Rent them now, don't return them till April. Al Sporting Goods Labor Day sale. Every sport, every season.
Summer is cruising by way too fast. It's already back to school time. Soon you're going to start experiencing many special places and events that you won't forget, such as your first slide down Old Main Hill, attending Aggie football and basketball games, or a wild party at the Howe, and your first kiss on the Aggie Bull. That might just lead to that extra special moment at Jarek's Fine Jewelry, Cache Valley's engagement ring store, where it's all about the romance. Just look for the bright green cars at 930 North Main Street.
Attention food lovers in Cache Valley. Thank you for voting Prodigy Brewing a winner for Best Craft Beer and Best Bar and Grill in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Prodigy Brewing invites you to their pet-friendly outdoor patio this summer. Whether it's with family or friends for lunch, dinner, or Sunday brunch, you'll love every tasty bite of Prodigy's delicious beer cheese nachos, sizzling pizzas, juicy burgers, and more, including a kids menu. Exceptional food, extraordinary service, and family-friendly. Prodigy Brewing on Center Street in downtown Logan.
While you're doing whatever it is you do, we're testing, retesting, engineering, and re-engineering to keep up with you. We run together.
JM Mechanical is your local Trane dealer. Fast 24-hour cooling and heating service available in Box Elder, Cache, and Franklin County with a 100% satisfaction guarantee and upfront pricing. Call JM Mechanical at 563-6267.
It's hard to stop a train.
Thursday on Compass Media Network's coverage of NCAA football. We kick off the 2023 season with a cross-country showdown as Cam Rising and the 14th-ranked Utah Utes host Graham Mertz and the Florida Gators. Hi, it's Greg Daniels. Join Chad Brown and me for all the action as the hunt for the college football playoffs starts now. It's number 14 Utah hosting Florida. If it's NCAA football, it's right here.
Pre-game begins Thursday afternoon at 5:30 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker with you here, Eric Frandsen. We're going to be playing an interview. We like to be able to get in contact, with media members of, the opposing teams that Utah State plays. Craig Hislop over on KVNU, he was able to catch up with Gary Dolphin, who is a long time, and I do mean long time, play-by-play voice for the Iowa Hawkeyes. So we'll be playing that interview about 11 minutes long. You should be able to hear maybe portions of this on KVNU Game Day, Aggie Game Day, later this week as part of Al's preview of Iowa right before the game starts. But you'll be able to hear the game on KVNU, the entirety of the game, since the Aggies are back on KVNU. But so here's the interview that Craig Hislop did with Gary Dolphin, the play-by-play voice of the Iowa Hawkeyes.
And TV's on a delay, so.
Yep, I need to restart it. Always technical difficulties. All right, let's go.
If you live in Iowa, you're familiar with Gary Dolphin. Since December of 1996, he has been the voice that you hear when you tune into the Iowa Hawkeye Network for Iowa football and basketball. And he's good enough to join us leading up to the Aggies and the Hawkeyes today. And you're an Iowa guy. This has got to be a dream job.
Oh, no question. I tell, first off, good to be on with you, Craig. I tell people all the time, it took me about 27 years to get my dream job. I was doing Northwestern basketball at the time, working for the Bears and TV production in Chicago, and doing a lot of high school games and small college. And, it's proof positive again that you never burn bridges. I had done Iowa football for 5 or 6 years back in the late 70s, early 80s, and then, of course, when Hayden Fry came, everything changed. And I was enjoying the Fry era, and then all of a sudden I get the call, we're going to go exclusive network with Learfield, and we need to hire a new play-by-play man. So I jumped in with both feet and applied, and was fortunate enough to get the job.
And as listeners know, you get to work with Ed Podolak on the football games, and our Jazz fan favorite, Bobby Hansen, on the basketball games.
Yeah, how about that? I don't know how many play-by-play guys or gals out there that have the extreme luxury of having a former Super Bowl champion as a football analyst, and Bobby Hansen as an NBA champion. Although he didn't win one with the Jazz, they kept running into Kareem and Worthy and Magic every year, but he did win one with Michael and Scotty in Chicago, and obviously both were great players at the University of Iowa. So as I tell fans, I just try and stay out of their way, tee them up. I tell you what happened, and they tell you why it happened, and they're very, very good at it, as you know.
Well, is the offensive staff comfortable that Cade McNamara is healthy and can energize what one of your headline writers out there calls a moribund Iowa offense?
That might be one of the nicer terms that Iowa's offense has been labeled over the past year. And, you know, in fairness to Brian Ferentz, who's been vilified, everything but vilified, or skewered at the stake, Brian's offense averaged 31 points a game a couple of years back when they got to Indianapolis for the Big Ten title game. And ironically, Cade McNamara in Michigan put a thumping on the Hawkeyes. So it's a matter of, if you're at Iowa, you got to run the ball first and then take your shots down the field. And last year was more a byproduct of an inexperienced, often injured offensive line, which is better. Now, it's the same guys. They're a year older, and they've become redshirt sophomores and, true juniors. The guards, the middle three are pretty good. The tackles have been the issue, trying to block that outside. Of course, everybody blitzes. And Spencer Petras, a year ago, not the most quick of foot. The Hawks gave up north of 50 sacks last year, and that's just very unlike Iowa's offensive lines historically. So I look for improvement there, and they're going to need to be better if they're going to get to that 25-point-a-game threshold that they've put on Brian Ferentz's contract.
Well, you put the Ferentz name out there already, so let's talk about the head coach. He was the head coach when we were there in 2002, by the way, and he's still rolling along, 25th year. Nobody coaches 25 years in college football.
It is amazing, Craig, and even more so now. Now, this is the first year where Iowa really has brought in, nearly double-figure transfer portal kids. They brought in 9, most of them on the offensive side. They brought in a couple junior college transfers to help out the cause, and that's very unlike Kirk Ferentz. You know, Iowa is, and I hate to use the term developmental program, but that's what it is, and he uses it, so I'm going to use it, where they have a keen eye for recruits that maybe aren't north of a 3-star, and then their preferred walk-on program has been very, very profitable for them down through the years. And they get these guys in the weight room, and they develop them. They got an incredible weight strength and conditioning program and staff. And then by their third year, hopefully they're starting, and you get 2-3 good years out of them, and then the next guys step in. That hasn't been the case the last couple of years, and luck doesn't always run your way. But Kirk is he's very stable, very conservative. He'll take his chances on the offensive side of the football, but they've always progressed to postseason games and 10-win seasons with great defense, great special teams, and you always win the turnover battle. And last year's Iowa defense forced 23 turnovers and turned those into 66 points. Now, hopefully, the offense can step up and do more of its part this year, be more of a contributor. You mentioned 25 years ago, or almost 25 years ago, the last time the Aggies were in Iowa City. That team featured an All-American Heisman runner-up quarterback, Brad Banks, who had great escapability, and Cade McNamara has some of that skill. But that team also had Outland Trophy winner Robert Gallery, a first-team All-American Eric Steinbach, Bruce Nelson, an All-American at center, and they all had long careers in the NFL. So you've got to have guys up front that can block and protect the quarterback, or you don't have a chance.
You know, my memories of that Aggie game in 2002 to Iowa City were the score, the unbelievable size of the offensive line, but I guess that's normal, and the visitors' locker room was painted pink.
It still is.
Now, they told me that was Hayden Fry's idea.
It was, and the short story there is Hayden obviously was academically brilliant when he went to Baylor. He was a great quarterback at Baylor, and then coached with the likes of Frank Broyles at Arkansas, and of course went on to create his own legacy. But Hayden was a psychology major at Baylor, and he read or studied where some colors do not put you asleep, but you become awfully laid back and blasé. And one of them was pink. So he said, let's paint the urinals and the walls pink in the opposing locker room. And it's grown that story has grown a lot of legs down through the years. But I remember Bo Schembechler came in here with a great Michigan team one year and sent his student managers downtown Iowa City. They came back with meat paper, brown meat paper, and they wallpapered the entire locker room, and Iowa still won the game. That's how Hayden could get in your head.
Wow. I want to ask you a couple of things before I let you go. The exciting times we're going through here now with conference alignment. What do you think about all of this?
Well, I'm old school. I hate to see it, frankly. I understand it. These multi-billion-dollar television contracts and what's happening to the Pac-12 is almost criminal in my view. But it is what it is. That's the landscape. And hopefully, when USC and UCLA get here, and obviously Washington and Oregon are planning on coming to the Midwest more than once, I hope that whatever's left on the West Coast and the Mountain West and the Big 12 can circle the wagons and continue to be strong as they have been in the past. Now, I don't know what's going to happen to the Pac-12. You might be better connected out there than I am, but it is the state of athletics, just like college athletics, just like NIL and the transfer portal. And I've with the TV money, as long as the TV money is there, Craig, radio certainly is viable, but TV is driving the bus. And as long as TV is willing to pay these hefty dollar amounts, which therefore get revenue shared with most college football teams in the country or most universities, then we might have a day coming where we have half the country with 50 schools in its conference and half the country with the other 50, or at least the top 100, because the playoffs are going to continue to expand.
Yeah. One other thing before I let you go, we have friends in Iowa. They all have Gary Dolphin stories. Tom Goodman was a basketball player at Iowa State, and his son Jay played there. Then he came to Utah State and had a really good career. And their favorite story involves you were emceeing a program somewhere, and you were telling the story that General Custer had assembled his troops and said, "Men, we're going to die soon, but at least we won't have to go back through Nebraska."
That's a true story. Custer said, look, I got good news and I got bad news, and this is in front of the campfire the night before his 600, wide-eyed, never-before-seen combat troops. And he said, the bad news is we're all going to die tomorrow. We're outnumbered 2,500 to 600, and, Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, they're vicious. And but you know what? Die bravely, give it your best, and live with it, or die with it. And this young tin horn said, "Well, my God, what could be the bad news?" He said, what could be the good news? And Custer said, "The good news is we don't have to go back through Nebraska," and that's part of the rivalry that is developed between the Hawkeyes and the Cornhuskers. You know how border states can be sometimes. Yeah. It's similar to Iowa State. And Tom Goodman, I don't want to tell you how old I am, Craig, but I actually called the state high school basketball tournament in Des Moines when Tom Goodman's, I believe it was Sioux City North or Sioux City East, perhaps, were playing in the large school division. And he was a heck of a player then. I'm sure he's still a good athlete now. And Jay, I remember, I didn't get to call Jay's games, but I remember Tom well, give him my best.
Absolutely. Jay comes out here every summer to see us.
Terrific.
What a great thrill to talk to you, Gary. We're looking forward to the game, and I appreciate your time to give us a few minutes. And we'll tell you what we tell every other of our sportscasting guys. Call them like you see them, Gary.
That's all you can do, right? I mean, now the eyesight is still pretty good, but here's my deal, Craig. If you make a mistake, who's going to know? You're creating the picture, right?
Very good.
And TV's on a delay, so it doesn't matter. But no, great to be on with you, and look forward to welcoming the Aggies to Kinnick.
So that was play-by-play for the Iowa Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin. Long time there. Craig Hislop there with the interview there. Great job by him, obviously getting a lot of fun insight there. We're going to go ahead and take another break. On the other side, we'll begin to update you a little bit on what's going on with the Jazz. They made a few signings today, adding to their training camp roster. Also update you on what's going on with the latest in FIBA and the Jazz players that are involved on their international teams. That's all coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Make it 3 years in a row. Advanced Heating and AC is honored to be named gold medalist for the best of Northern Utah in the AC HVAC category. They thank you for your support and vote of confidence in their company. You have many choices when it comes to your home's heating and air conditioning system. Make sure you choose the gold medal winning company, Advanced Heating and AC. Call 752-7272 or stop by their showroom west of DI. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
This is Ryan of My Mattress. For 6 months, we've been planning the Labor Day 2023 sale, and it's finally here. Truckloads have arrived with all sizes. Twin mattresses, 50% off. Queen latex beds starting at $650. Purple mattresses are hundreds less than online. Our South store by Big 5 Sports and our North store by Red Balloon Toys have over 40 beds to choose from. Up to 4 years, no interest financing. Come in right now for the biggest sale of the year, the Labor Day sale, only at the North and South My Mattress. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally?
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, the Allergy Clinic and Hearing Aid Center are located in North Logan in the Three Peaks Medical Plaza and Providence on Gateway Drive. Doctors Benyon, Blotter, and Robinette and staff have over 75 years of combined medical experience, providing the very best patient care for ear, nose, and throat conditions. Most insurance products, including SelectMed, are accepted. Go to CacheValleyENT.com. That's CacheValleyENT.com for appointments and details. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, located in North Logan and Providence.
Adams Wealth Advisors is proud to announce that they've been named as one of the best financial advisory firms in the country by USA Today. Start maximizing your wealth potential with a team of experienced advisors who specialize in working with high net worth individuals. Let Adams Wealth Advisors help you achieve your financial goals with a personalized approach to investment management and planning. For more information on how Adams Wealth Advisors can help you achieve your financial goals, go to AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com.
Do you have a backup generator, or have you explored the options of adding one to your home? Generac backup generators will keep your home or business safe and cool during the summer months if the power goes out. Do you already have a system? Golden Spike Electric can service it for you. If you don't have one, Golden Spike Electric can find the right model for your needs. Find them online at gsegenerators.com or call 435-257-3016. Golden Spike Electric and Generac, power you can count on.
At Stotz Equipment, your Cache Valley John Deere dealer, they have the equipment you need to get the job done. Handle heavier duty chores around the farm, property, or job site with John Deere compact utility tractors and compact construction equipment. They have an option for all your jobs with premium features and the right size tractor for your operation. Find out which tractor is right for you. Stotz Equipment is located 451 West 8th North in Preston, Idaho. Visit the store or check them out online at stotzequipment.com.
Thursday on Compass Media Network's coverage of NCAA football. We kick off the 2023 season with a cross-country showdown as Cam Rising and the 14th-ranked Utah Utes host Graham Mertz and the Florida Gators. Hi, it's Greg Daniels. Join Chad Brown and me for all the action as the hunt for the college football playoffs starts now. It's number 14 Utah hosting Florida. If it's NCAA football, it's right here.
Pre-game begins Thursday afternoon at 5:30 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back, Full Court Press. Jason Walker with you here. Eric Frandsen had to step out for the time being. He's got some. He's gonna do. I think it's a bike rodeo. He's helping with. So a lot of fun for him there. So he's had to leave just a bit early. Obviously, got a chance to talk a lot about. We had the Diana Sabo interview that we did yesterday. Talk about conference realignment because that's what we have to talk about. That's the seemingly the growing likelihood that Pac-12 will just basically dissolve, go away. And the Washington State, Oregon State will at least be heavily courted by the Mountain West. We'll see what decision they ultimately make. But also previewing Iowa a little bit. That game, obviously, season opener on Saturday. You'll be able to hear it on KVNU, along with Al Lewis's pre and post game. You'll be able to call into the post game show. Speaking of Iowa, going to the text line, if you want to text in 435-339-0321. You've had great participation on the text line today. 5879 pointing out Iowa is a 23.5 point favorite, so 23.5 point favorite. Now, which I think that's down from what it was earlier. I think I haven't listened. I've been going off what Eric's told me. Haven't specifically listened to the or found a spread yet, but I think it was a little higher. Maybe it's gone down. Now, I certainly think that that's way too high. I think Utah State's probably going to give up in the 23-25 point range, like if I'm being perfectly honest. 5879 saying yes, it was as high as 24, which I guess that's about where I thought it was, 24 or 25. So I think it's very likely that Iowa could put up that many points, but that would imply Utah State gets shut out. And while I think Utah State probably ends the game in single-digit points, maybe getting into the double-digit points, 24 or 23-point spread is pretty high. That just seems way too optimistic. 7241 is asking, any football players involved in that betting scandal that has multiple Iowa athletes suspended? The answer is yes. The defensive tackle, their starting defensive tackle, Noah Shannon, he's been suspended. They're appealing the suspension, but that's not going to get resolved by Saturday, so he will not play. There are no other football players that I'm aware of, and they've been open about Shannon being suspended. I know there's others that they're just other athletes at Iowa, and I think also Iowa State, who are suspended, but they're kind of just leaving up to the discretion of the athlete whether they want to admit they've been suspended. They're kind of leaning on, maintaining their privacy if the athlete wants. I guess Noah Shannon's like, yeah, everyone knows, so admitting that he's involved. And they're not contesting whether or not Noah Shannon was, I guess use the phrase guilty. They're mostly emphasizing that they think that the punishment's too harsh. That was the sentiment, because Kirk Ferentz, Iowa head coach, talked about it in his press conference. That was one of the things he kind of led with. He's like, they're not really disputing anything. They just think maybe don't suspend him for the whole season. But obviously that's not really going to impact Utah State. One quick thing, looking at the Utah Jazz, with preseason training camp coming up for them, they're going to have preseason games beginning in October, so we're a couple months out there, about a month and a half out. The Jazz made a few signings. They're allowed to make a few signings. They're ballooning their roster up to 18 players, which is how many you're allowed to have during the training camp period. You will eventually have to trim it down to 15. And so a lot of times you sign these training camp guys, and then, there's obviously a small likelihood any of these guys are going to make the final roster. But a lot of the times it's trying to develop these guys, because some of these guys played with the Jazz in the Summer League, and they very likely play with the Jazz on their G League team. But the three signings the Jazz made today, earlier today, are guard Romeo Langford, another guard Tavian Kinsey, and then Nick Ongenda. I don't know how to say his name. I believe he was a center. Tavian Kinsey, he played for the Jazz in the Summer League, so that's part of probably why he was able to make the jump up. He played 5 years at Marshall. This last year, graduating in 2023, or his eligibility running out at the end of the 2022-23 season. So obviously he's trying to stake his claim in the NBA. This is his rookie season, effectively. And it's the same thing for Ongenda. He was a center for DePaul, played 4 years there. Both guys were standouts for their teams. Ongenda averaged like 4.5 blocks per game. Tavian Kinsey, averaging 17 points throughout a 5-year career. Averaged at least 19 points the last 3 years of his career. So both standout players, both participated in the Summer League for the Jazz. The final player, the Romeo Langford, you may have heard that name because he's a former first-round pick. Yeah, he was like late lottery, like 14th overall pick in 2019. Danny Ainge was with the Boston Celtics, who drafted Langford at 14th overall. Danny Ainge being here in Utah, you can imagine that may be a big reason why Langford's ended up with the Jazz here. Langford's kind of bounced around the NBA. He obviously spent time with the Boston Celtics. Then he bounced to the San Antonio Spurs. I think he was traded there mid-season, if I recall, but didn't play a ton with the Spurs. Played about half the season last year. I think he dealt with some injuries. He's dealt with injuries his whole career. That's a big reason why 14th overall pick hasn't figured things out. Is because he's just been constantly injured. When he's been healthy, he's been like a 15 minute per game kind of guy. So those are the 3 signings the Jazz made today. A couple of shooting guards, wings, and a center. We'll see how those guys develop in terms of training camp. Maybe they push trying to make a roster spot, but the Jazz don't really have a whole lot of those available. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, we'll wrap up the show with a little talk about FIBA, just updates on where Jazz players are in terms of playing with international teams at the FIBA World Cup. It's coming up next.
This is Cache County Fire Chief Rod Hammer. Due to current and forecasted weather conditions coupled with extremely dry vegetation, the state forester, in consultation with fire officials, has determined that measures must be taken to prevent the ignition of forest and rangeland fires. Therefore, the following acts are prohibited in unincorporated Cache County and on state lands. 1. There are no open fires of any kind except within established public facilities, in improved campgrounds, picnic areas, or in permanently constructed fire pits at private homes where running water is present. There is no smoking allowed except within an enclosed vehicle, trailer, or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area that is paved or free from dry vegetation. No discharging or using any fireworks, tracer ammunition, or other pyrotechnic devices, including exploding targets. No cutting, welding, or grinding metal in areas of dry vegetation. No operating a motorcycle, chainsaw, ATV, or any other small internal combustion engine without an approved and working spark arrestor. The Cache County Fire District and the firefighters in Cache County appreciate your help.
When a tiny drop causes a ripple and becomes a wave, it travels through all corners of the planet, sustains all forms of life, and provides streams of wonder, rivers of adventure, and oceans of discovery. One drop connects us all. Reserve your visit now to Loveland Living Planet Aquarium, a nonprofit organization.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Valvoline Instant Oil Change. They're open 7 days a week. 695 North Main in Logan. Valvoline Synthetic and Valvoline Max Life for the engine oil your vehicle loves. So you can stop by any day of the week over across the street from Angie. So just a quick update. We've only got about a minute or so left. Just updating quickly on what's going on with the FIBA World Cup. The first group stage has ended. So the top 2 teams in each group moved on. They're now kind of just reshuffling back into 4 groups. There were 5 former Jazz players, or 5 current Jazz players on international teams. 2 of them are going to come home or come back to the U.S. Neither of them are actually from the U.S. They're both coming back to Utah. Lowry Markkanen for Finland. They were eliminated. And then Jordan Clarkson for the Philippines. They were also eliminated. 3 Jazz players advancing with their teams. Italy. They are now in Group I in the reshuffled groups. They're in Group I because they had like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on and so forth. So Group I will have Italy, Serbia, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. Then United States with Walker Kessler. So Italy with Simone Fontecchio. USA with Walker Kessler. They're in Group J. They'll be joined by Lithuania, Montenegro, and Greece. And then Kelly Olynyk with Canada is in Group L. They're with Spain, Brazil, and Latvia. Certainly that'll be tough with Canada going up against Spain there. There are 4 groups in total. One does not include any Jazz players, so I didn't mention it. But that'll do it for us on today's show. Join us tomorrow. Eric and I will be giving our predictions for the Utah State-Iowa game.